All right, so you know that I love me some aged white wine or aged wine just generally. And honestly, it's really sad that it's harder than it should be to find it in the natural wine space and the wine space generally, honestly, just because of the way that the supply chain is set up. Um, it's very infrequent that winemakers have the opportunity to let their wines sit for as long as they want them to. So when I see them and when they're at a price point where I feel like it can make a lot of sense for the club and for people to enjoy, I get stoked and I buy them. So that is how we got to a Basque wine that I am terrible at pronouncing anything with Basque. So I apologize in advance for everything I'm trying to say about this wine. But it's from 2015. It's from Ben Bengoetxe. I'm so sorry. I have no idea, but you guys will see it. And what they do, so they basically have certain vintages where they have their best wines, kind of like a not vintage champagne versus non-vintage champagne. And when they have the really good ones, they call it Berezia. I think I'm pronouncing that part right. And so that's what we have here. So they really liked their 2015 vintage, and they made this wine out of it. So a bit about the producer, like I said, he's up in the Basque. Oh gosh, and his name is Iñaki. I'm so sorry. And Rosa, no, that one, Maria Echevarria. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad at this one. So the region up there is completely different from everything you think of when you think of Spain. There's like, if you ever are interested in Spanish history and like anything about the different regions, there's this movie that I can't think of the name of right now, but if you message me, I will look it up, and it's really cute. It's about like a Basque girl who accidentally falls in love with a guy from Valencia, and it's just like the perfect example of how different all the regions, or at least those two regions of Spain, are. So when we think of Spain, we're thinking of like Valencia and like the what's called like the dance they do there, and the beautiful cathedrals and like kind of hot. This is not that at all. Like there's literal rainforest, well, not in Basque, but there's literal rainforest in Spain, and it's just like very cold, and I don't know, it looks a little bit more like Ireland in some ways than it does the rest of Spain. Anyway, sorry, that's super tangential, but I feel like it might give you a little bit of context for this wine and why I'm very excited about it. So like I said, it has a ton of aging on it. They only have, a few different, like I think they have like 6 hectares total, which is nothing. This one and like a lot of their wines that are in their Berezia line or whatever you want to call it come from some of their plots that I would say are just like some of the most difficult to harvest from, but obviously a lot of times those produce the best fruit. So that's what we're seeing here. So talking about the wine itself, now we've gone through that. It is on its lees for like a year. And so if you've been here for a bit, the lees basically make it have a little bit of a creaminess to it. And it's also really good for wines to sit on their lees if you don't want to add sulfur. So not only do they like let it rest on its lees for a year, they also do the battonage, which is where they basically take a baton or whatever, a little wand thing, and they stir the lees in. So it makes it even more creamy. So they're doing that and they're aging it for all this amount of time, which is really creating a very different expression of what you would expect from, like white wine generally. So with that, let's smell it. Oh, and first let's look at the color. So as white wines age, they get darker. As red wines age, they get lighter. So this is not an orange wine. It doesn't even look that orange. It really just looks very yellow. And most of that I would say is just coming from the age. All right, so on the nose, at the top, it's like very savory, honestly. Like the general thing I would say about what I'm smelling from this is that it's got this lovely white wine savoriness to it, very saline as well. Like there's a lot of like, it's like salty, and that's just like, that just reminds me of the Basque. Like when I think of the Basque country, I think of like a guy out on a boat just getting like slammed with waves while he's trying to bring like fish into harbor, and it's chilly and everyone's wearing hats and they're drinking this wine while they're having their sea urchin or whatever. So if you want to really picture yourself there, that's the epitome of what this wine is. Anyways, so yeah, so it's got the salinity to it. And like, honestly, well, again, not again, but Another thing that happens as wine age is like the first thing they have is fruit, and the longer they age, the more the fruit goes away and the other qualities of the wine come forward. That's why like 98% of wine is not or should not be aged, because it's too simple. It doesn't have, you know, the backbone and these all these other qualities about it to be able to to actually stand up or to actually be able to age. So this wine is perfect for that because it has so many other aspects to it besides just the fruit. So the longer a wine has been in bottle or just generally has aged, you're actually going to have to dig for the fruit to find it versus dig for, you know, like minerality or some of these other secondary and tertiary characteristics. All right, when do we get to drink it? Hang on, first let me find the fruit on it and then we'll drink it. So I would say like not candied apple, but like honey apples, honeysuckle. Again, like I'm really still trying to get the fruit in there. Next I'm getting honeysuckle, but it does have like, I don't know if it's like star fruit. I don't know that much about star fruit, so I can't confidently say that, but there's some tropical-y, more tropical, I would say, than like stone fruit quality to it. But like honestly, any and all of it can be there. It's just, again, like underneath the rest of it. So now let's try it. Oh man. So literally everything I just said, except for like, I would say it's like, it's got this, I don't know, Jose Pastor called it a lusciousness, so I'm just going to call that too. That's the importer. It's like, it doesn't seem like that on the nose, but then when it's in your mouth, like, it's interesting in that it's got to be from the acidity, because like this is going to sound so stupid, but it tastes wet, if that makes sense. Like normally you're like, you know, drink it, it goes away, it still has a long lingering finish, which it does, but like the acidity must just still be so high on this that's the only explanation I can think of, because like it just still tastes so wet in my mouth. Yeah, I don't know, it's just like luscious. It's got so much like that a searing, it's like, I would think I would call like a searing acidity, and then it's got like, you know, that saline aspect to it, that savoriness to it, and then, you know, behind all of that, the fruit that we talked about. So this wine's pretty particular, pretty singular based on all these things that I just said, and I'm just gonna put my foot down. You can do whatever you want, but I'm gonna put my foot down and say, put this with seafood. After all the history of the Basque country and everything I just said, like, it's just right. It's just what it deserves. It needs like some sort of shellfish. I'm like I know you do like oysters, you could do lobster, sea urchin, or whatever, but like for some reason I'm really picturing razor clams. I don't know why, but like razor clams is what I want with this, or like gambas al ajillo. Cool, like do that. That's what this deserves. And if you hate seafood completely, it's going to work with tapas too. So just whatever from tapas that you enjoy, put that instead. So I hope you enjoyed your accidental history lesson about the Basque Country, and think of a really fun time to have this aged white wine, because it's not the typical, and it deserves to have something very specific with it. So enjoy.